Good afternoon, selamat sore, and welcome again to everybody in Europe. And good evening, selamat malam, to our guests from Indonesia. Welcome to our 13th event, TemuSastra, the fourth TemuSastra which we conduct online. It has been a while since our last literature event with Oki Madasari, the well-known Indonesian author who talked with her translator Gudrun Ingratubun and with Sabine Müller about Oki's book Pasung Jiwa, but also about current politics in Indonesia and the current state of Indonesian literature. After a half-year-long break, we are now back again, and we are very glad to welcome another internationally well-known and renowned Indonesian author, Eka Kurniawan. Before we start with our talk, allow me to introduce very shortly the three guests who are going to fill our program today. He was praised as one of the most imaginative and eloquent contemporary Indonesian authors with an extraordinary psychological knowledge of the human soul. His style was compared with the early works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he's known as a sharp and popular commentator of political and social matters of today's Indonesia. His second novel, Lelaki Harimau, Man-Tiger, was long listed for the British Man Booker Prize, and he has received several prestigious international awards for his work, including one of 100 notable books of the year by the New York Times for his debut novel, Cantik, itu Luka, or Beauty is a Wound. He was chosen one of 100 Global Thinkers of the Year by the US-based Foreign Policy magazine, and among the awards he received are the Emerging Voices Fiction Award by the Oppenheimer Foundation, the World Readers Award by the Asia Pacific Writers and Translators Association, and the Prince Claus Award by the Prince Claus Foundation. Selamat datang, welcome to our forum, Eka Kurniawan. The Hamburg-based interpreter and translator Martina Heinschke studied Austronesian languages and cultures with a focus on Indonesian philology. In 1991, she received her doctorate with a thesis on Indonesian authors of the Angkatan 45 or Generation 45. Today, she focuses on modern Indonesian literature and teaches as a lecturer at the Department of Languages and Cultures of Southeast Asia at the University of Hamburg. Martina has translated Eka's book Lelaki Harimau, in German Tigermann. Some of you might remember that Martina was our guest in December 2016 to speak about the challenges of literary translations, taking Eka Kurniawan's novel Lelaki Harimau as an example. Welcome to you, Martina Heinschke. Sabine Müller is a translator and editor living in Cologne. She organizes and coordinates international cultural programs in the fields of translation and literature, among others in cooperation with Goethe-Institut or Weltlesebühne. From 2002 to 2006, the alumni of the Department of Cultural Anthropology and Malayology of the University of Cologne headed the German language department at the Polytechnic in Bandung, West Java, and worked with the language and program department at Goethe-Institut in Bandung and Jakarta. Sabine has translated Eka's first novel, Cantik, itu Luka, in German, Schönheit, eine, Wunde. For several of our last events, Sabine was our guest as translator and moderator. Good to have you with us again. Welcome back, Sabine Müller. Eka, Sabine and Martina, the virtual floor is yours now, and I think we directly start with a reading from Lelaki Harimau by Martina and Eka. Silahkan.
Thank you, Birgit, I just will start with the first chapter of the German translation of Lelaki Harimau with the title Tigermann. 1. Zur Stunde der Abenddämmerung, als Margio den Anwar Sadat tötete, saß Kyaitjacho voller Sorge an seinem Fischteich, lediglich begleitet von der Falsettstimme des Meers, von dessen zwischen den Stämmen der Kokospalmen waberndem, salzigem Geruch und dem mittlerweile zahmen Sturm, der durch die angeschwemmten Algen, Korallenbäume und Eisenkrautsträucher strich. Sein Fischteich lag in einer verwahrlosten Kakaoplantage, deren Bäume mit den vertrockneten, nicht mehr von Chilis zu unterscheidenden Früchten nur noch der Teppichfabrik von Nutzen waren, die ihnen jeden Nachmittag aufs Neue die wenigen Blätter raubte. Mitten durch die Plantage schlängelte sich ein schmaler Fluss, reich an Schlangenkopffischen und Kiemenschlitzaalen, umgeben von einem Sumpf, der bei Überschwemmungen das überschüssige Wasser aufnahm. Einige Zeit, nachdem das Plantagenunternehmen bankrott gemacht hatte, waren die Leute hierher gekommen, hatten Reisfelder im Sumpf angelegt und so den Urwald aus wuchernden Wasserhyazinthen und Wasserspinat vertrieben. Jawa war einer von ihnen. Er hatte eine Saison lang Reis angebaut, dies dann aber aufgegeben, da dessen Pflege ihm zu mühsam und zu zeitaufwendig war. Er, der anders als alle erfahrenen Reisbauern nicht einmal das Sternbild des Orion zu deuten wusste, hatte den Reis daraufhin durch die widerstandsfähigeren und pflegeleichteren Erdnüsse ersetzt. Als er nach der Ernte vor 2 gefüllten Säcken stand, war er jedoch ratlos, wie er die alle futtern sollte. So hatte er schließlich sein Feld in einen Fischteich umgewandelt, den leicht 2 Buntbarscharten hineingeworfen, und es war ihm seither eine vollkommen willkommene Abwechslung, seine Fische in der Abenddämmerung zu füttern und zuzusehen, wie ihre Mäuler an der Wasseroberfläche auf und zuschnappten. Sekarang, now, Eka, the German part is over.
Thank you, Martina. So now it's me to read the same part of the novel, but in Indonesian versions, the original. This came from the first chapter, bab 1. Senja ketika Margio membunuh Anwar Sadat, Kiai Jahro tengah masuk dengan ikan-ikan di kolamnya. Ditemani aroma asin yang terbang di antara batang kelapa dan bunyi falseto laut, dan badai jinak merangkak di antara ganggang, dadap, dan semak lantana. Kolamnya menggenang di tengah perkebunan coklat yang meranggas kurang terawat. Buah-buahnya kering dan kurus tak lagi terbedakan dengan rawit. Hanya berguna bagi pabrik tempe yang merampok daunnya setiap petang. Di tengah perkebunan, mengalir sungai kecil penuh dengan ikan gabus dan belut. Dikelilingi rawa yang menampung tumpahan arus kala banjir. Orang-orang datang selang berapa lama selepas perkebunan dinyatakan bangkrut tumbang untuk memberi patok-patok dan menanam padi di rawa-rawa itu, mengusir eceng gondok dan rimba raya kangkung. Kiai Jahro datang bersama mereka menanam padi untuk 1 musim. Terlalu banyak minta diurus dan menggerogoti waktu. Kiai Jahro yang bahkan tak mengenal apa makna bintang Waluku mengganti padi dengan kacang yang lebih tangguh, tak minta banyak urus. Namun 2 karung kacang tanah di musim panen tak alang membuatnya bertanya-tanya, dengan cara apa ia mesti memamahnya. Demikianlah petak tersebut berakhir menjadi kolam, dilemparkan ke sana benih mujair dan nila, dan jadi kesenangannya untuk memberi pakan setiap senja, melihat mulut mereka cuap-cuap di permukaan air menggenang. That's the first 2 paragraph of novel Lelaki Harimau. It's only the opening. Maybe you cannot figure out what the novel about. So I think maybe Martina can give us a little synopsis about the novel.
Thank you, Eka. You just heard these 2 paragraphs, and you saw that there are some people occupying an abundant cocoa plantation near a place near the sea. We don't know whether there's a city nearby, but we can imagine that. and that the people coming there live, that we know in the next paragraphs, at the outskirts of this unnamed city, a nearby town, and struggle to improve their livelihood. The first sentence tells you already the main problem carved out in the novel. There had been a homicide, and the reader is directly informed about the culprit and the victim, with the culprit being Margio and the victim his neighbor by the name of Anwar Sadat. Even more, 2 or 3 pages later, the reader learns about the way this homicide had been done. Margio had assaulted Anwar Sadat and bitten his throat through. Chapter 1 even gives in the later pages a detailed description of this manslaughter. Thus, with the homicide being clear outright from the beginning, you may ask yourself how Eka Kurniawan could fill more than 200 pages with this story. To his neighbors, Margio had been known as a quiet and a polite young man. Thus, the novel turns to the question how this guy came about to commit this violent act. The reader learns about Margio's social background, about his tormented family due to a violent father, and Margio's feelings for his victim's daughter. It is a story of an anger rising over the years. This has something to do with the tiger, but we will speak about the tiger later. What I want to underline, also as readers, we know the fact from the beginning. But with every chapter, our perspective widens. And it's due to Eka's very deft storytelling that this novel is thrilling and exciting till the last page. To me, this is a great achievement. We won't tell you all, since you have to experience it by yourself by reading the novel. But you will be excited till the end. That I'm sure. So that is a short synopsis. It's a crime story, perhaps, could be, we don't know. Yes, it is a story which we have to conclude at the end, although we know the facts already in the beginning. Eka, how did you come to this topic? Where is the place, this unnamed city or town? I think it's more a smaller town. So.
Yes, this is actually unnamed city, unnamed place, but at the same time, this is the place that I think many people in Indonesia can recognize this kind of place, especially someone or somebody who ever lived in a small town or in a little bigger village, for example. I think it's a little bit similarity almost everywhere in Indonesia. Actually, the idea is the first idea is I want to after I publish Cantik Itu Luka, I want to create because in Cantik Itu Luka maybe I have to introduce first. In Cantik Itu Luka everything is like fantastical because the city in the novel is a little bit fantastic. But in Lelaki Harimau, I want to picturing a city, a small place that we Indonesian can recognize. So I want to write something about my own community, my neighborhood, the people who live in a small kampung, a small village. So the idea when I wrote the first chapter, the first opening, the ones that I already read aloud a few minutes ago. I want to introduce the situation, the setting, how the plantations went bankrupt, and then how the interaction between people, the kiai, and then in the if you read the novel in the second page, you can find a veteran, and then some of other characters. But I know if kind of draw a landscape, a city in a novel, it's quite a boring thing. So I think I want to introduce something different from the inside, outside the picturing the place. So I introduced the crime scene. So the first thing after I introduce the setting, and I think it's kind of a little boring. So I put the first sentence, very first sentence is the crime, how the Margio kill Anwar Sadat. But after that, I skip the crime and introduce another character. But I return to the crime in the, I think in the second or the third page, so on and so. This is the story about the place, the neighborhood, the interaction between one house to another, one people to another. But at the same time, I was influenced by the crime fiction, because I think crime fiction is kind of interesting story, because people want to know what happened next, who is the villains. But in this novel, I want to recreate the crime fictions. Not we don't try to find who is the villain, who commit crime, because the guys already introduced in the first sentence. So what we want to find is the motive, the motivation, why it's happened. So the novel is a little bit have a back narrative from the future to the past. So and then in the end, it's kind of returned again to the crime scene when Margio kill Anwar Sadat.
So we come back, but we have the killing of the Anwar Sadat already also in the first chapter.
Yes.
So I think that is so we know a lot of things, but we feel also we have to read the book further on. So that is a very, very good achievement for me. I like it very much.
But Martina, I think when I wrote the novel, even I don't think people will like it, because it's kind of experimental. It's not a pure crime fiction, but at the same time, I'm not sure it's too literary too, because I combine a lot of there's a kind of crime fiction, and then there is a kind of magical creatures. So it's just kind of experiments by the young writer, but I don't know, when in 2000, maybe 2012, I think I met the editor from maybe 2014. I met with the editor from Germany who want to publish the Lelaki Harimau, and then I know they offer the novel to you to translate it. So what do you think when what you talk when say you get this offer?
Yes,
It's
it
make
was
you
the other way around.
interested.
It was the other way around. I had been reading, and they always said, we want to do Indonesian books with you. And I said, oh yes, but I'm always busy. And then, yes, because of Frankfurt Book Fair, we started which book could be a success in Germany. We had been thinking, and there was an internet brainstorming by Sabine and Edith and all these. And then I said, oh, which one would I like to translate? And I choose Lelaki Harimau, and I asked my friends so whether they would do it. It was just, yes, a little bit by chance, because I had to translate the Amba first, and then I thought, oh, there are 3 months, so I could do it. And I knew that the publisher will publish it very, very fast. So they don't, they would do it in 2 weeks when the manuscript is there. So, and so so it was that way around. I don't know, because they usually had been concentrating on East Asia. Yes. But it was nice, and I had been a little bit thinking about, yes, what is it? Will my publisher like it? Because I offered it to them, and I said, oh, afterwards they perhaps say, oh, such a crime fiction, who knows, and such a such a murder with so much blood, who knows? But they liked it very much, so I felt relieved. Yes. But it is not only that we got a crime fiction. For me, I think it is the book is nice because it has so many aspects. You know something about Indonesia, you know something about rural Java, you hear something, some social and psychological problems. That is what I like, that this combination. So I think it's yes, very, very exciting way to see Indonesia like that. Or Java for me. I don't know. I had been looking to the map. I never had been to the south of West Java, and so I had been looking when imagining this town from the map and from the things how and the villages beyond the town. Yeah, so it was just like that. So I had been looking around, but it was also a little bit, I have to correct myself.
Hello, is Martina freeze?
I think so. Yes.
Martina is frozen.
Yeah, Martina.
Maybe she needs to check out and check in again. Oh, this is too bad, because it was so interesting to listen to her.
There is something funny. I think when I remember when I met the publishers, because if my memory correct, they are husband and wife, and so we met, and so one of them asked me, how do you write? You make a plan or make a kind of plot and everything. And I said, yeah, sometimes I just write my first sentence and then go on and on. But sometimes when I was very tired to write, sometimes I make a drawing in my notebook. Because sometimes I have to visualize what I was thinking. So in my notebook, there is my drawing about the tiger. So I saw my notebook to my publisher, my German publisher. And then they're very interesting with my drawing, so they put it in the book cover. So that in the book cover is actually from my notebook. It's not the intent as a book cover. Actually, it's just a kind of yes. It's just I just want to I imagine myself how the tiger looked like when I wrote the novel.
So, excuse me, I don't know what's happening here.
Eka just told us about the cover of the book, the
Yes.
drawing of the tiger.
Yes, the tiger. We had been thinking about it, and that was the idea of the Ostasian Verlag after they knew that Eka had a drawing. Yes. I think, should we go further on to the Cantik to Luka? I think that you, dear audience, can get another impression of a beginning.
Yeah.
And also a rather strong beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Martina and Eka started with a manslaughter,
Yeah.
Tigermann, we also get something to listen to from the first page of Cantik to Luka or Schönheit ist eine Wunde. So if you allow me to start reading the first page of Schönheit ist eine Wunde. An einem Wochenendnachmittag im März und 21 Jahre nach ihrem Tod erhob sich Devi Ayu aus ihrem Grab. Ein Hirtenjunge, der sein Mittagsschläfchen unter einem Frangipani-Baum gehalten hatte, wachte auf, machte sich in seine kurzen Hosen und begann zu schreien, derweil seine 4 Schafe panisch zwischen den Grabmalen aus Stein oder Holz umherrannten, als sei plötzlich ein Tiger in ihre Mitte gesprungen. Alles begann mit lauten Geräuschen aus dem Inneren eines alten Grabes, das jeder, trotz des namenlosen und kniehoch mit Gras überwucherten Steins, als die letzte Ruhestätte von Devi Ayu kannte. Da sie im Alter von 52 Jahren gestorben und nach 21 Jahren wieder auferstanden war, konnte am Ende niemand ihr wahres Alter berechnen. Sobald der Hirtenjunge ihnen berichtet hatte, was auf dem Friedhof vor sich ging, liefen die Leute aus der Umgebung herbei, die Enden ihrer Sarons hochraffend, Kinder tragend, Besenstiele umklammernd oder noch schmutzig von der Arbeit im Reisfeld, drängten sie sich hinter Zierkirsch- und Rizinusstauden oder in der angrenzenden Bananenpflanzung. Niemand wagte, sich dem alten Grab zu nähern. Die Leute lauschten nur dem Lärm aus dessen Innerem, so als stünden sie, wie es oft taten, um den Hausierer herum, der jeden Montag vor dem Markt seine Heilmittel anbot. Sie genossen das unheimliche Schauspiel, das sie in Panik versetzt hätte, wären sie ganz alleine dort gewesen. Zudem erwarteten sie noch eine Art Wunder und nicht bloß laute Geräusche aus einem Grab, denn schließlich war die Frau unter diesem Stück Erde in den Kriegsjahren eine Prostituierte für die Japaner gewesen. Und die Kiais sagten immer, dass die mit Sünde behafteten Menschen ihre grausame Strafe im Grab erhalten würden. Der Lärm rührte also bestimmt von der Peitsche eines strafenden Engels her. Doch den Leuten wurde es langsam langweilig, denn ein bisschen aufregender durfte es schon noch werden. Das Wunder kam dann, und zwar überaus fantastisch. Das Grab bebte, bekam Risse und die Erde flog in die Luft, als wäre darunter ein Sprengsatz detoniert. Es folgten ein leichtes Beben, dann ein Windstoß, der Gestrüpp und Grabsteine umherwirbelte, und unter dem Regen aus Erde, der über der Szene niederging, stand die Gestalt einer alten Frau mit regungsloser, mürrischer Miene und noch in ein Leichentuch gehüllt, als wäre sie erst in der Nacht zuvor begraben worden. Die Leute gerieten außer sich und liefen panischer noch als die Schafe auf und davon. Ihre Schreie hallten von den Berghängen in der Ferne wieder. Eine der Frauen warf ihr Baby in die Büsche und ihr Mann umklammerte einen Bananenstrunk. 2 Männer stürzten in einen Graben, einige fielen bewusstlos an den Straßen und wieder andere liefen, ohne anzuhalten, mindestens 15 Kilometer weit. Devi Ayu, die all das beobachtete, hustete nur und staunte, sich mitten auf einem Friedhof wiederzufinden. Sie hatte inzwischen die 2 obersten Knoten ihres Leichentuchs gelöst und machte sich an, die 2 untersten umgehen zu können. Ihr Haar war auf wundersame Weise gewachsen, und als sie es aus dem weißen Baumwolltuch schüttelte, fiel es in der Nachmittagsbrise wehend und glänzend wie schwarze Algen im Fluss bis auf die Erde. Ihre Haut war faltig, doch ihr Gesicht schimmerte hell. Aus lebhaften Augen beobachtete sie die Leute, die sich hinter die Büsche gedrängt hatten, bevor ein Teil von ihnen die Flucht ergriff und der andere Teil die Besinnung verlor. An niemanden im Besonderen gerichtet, schimpfte sie laut und klagte, wie schlecht die Menschen doch waren, sie bei lebendigem Leib begraben zu haben. So this is the opening of the German version. Eka, would you read the Indonesian version?
Thank you, Sabine. No, I think it's my turns. I just think that my first two novels share the same atmosphere and sometimes share the same place. Also, the Lelaki Harimau is unnamed city. But if you read these two novels, you can see that Lelaki Harimau is more realistic and more psychological. But Cantik itu Luka is as you can heard when I read the novel, is more fantastical. So here the sample from the first chapter of Cantik itu Luka in Indonesian versions. Sore hari di akhir pekan bulan Maret, Dewi Ayu bangkit dari kuburan setelah 21 tahun kematian. Seorang bocah gembala dibuat terbangun dari tidur siang di bawah pohon Kamboja, kencing di celana pendeknya sebelum melolong, dan keempat dombanya lari di antara batu dan kayu nisan tanpa arah bagaikan seekor macan dilemparkan ke tengah mereka. Semuanya berawal dari kegaduhan di kuburan tua, dengan nisan tanpa nama dan rumput setinggi lutut. Tapi semua orang mengenalnya sebagai kuburan Dewi Ayu. Ia mati pada umur 52 tahun, hidup lagi setelah 21 tahun mati. Dan kini hingga seterusnya, tak ada orang yang tahu bagaimana menghitung umurnya. Orang-orang dari kampung sekitar pemakaman datang ke kuburan tersebut begitu si bocah gembala memberitahu. Mereka bergerombol di balik belukar ceri dan jarak dan di kebun pisang, sambil menggulung ujung sarung, menggendong anak, menenteng sapu lidi, dan bahkan berlepotan lumpur sawah. Tak seorang pun berani mendekat, hanya mendengarkan kegaduhan dari kuburan tua itu bagaikan mengelilingi tukang obat, sebagaimana sering mereka lakukan di depan pasar setiap hari Senin. Menikmatinya penuh ketakjuban, tak peduli itu merupakan horor yang menakutkan seandainya mereka sendirian saja. Bahkan mereka berharap sedikit keajaiban daripada sekedar kegaduhan kuburan tua. Sebab perempuan di dalam tanah itu pernah jadi pelacur bagi orang-orang Jepang sejak masa perang. Dan para kiai selalu bilang bahwa orang-orang berlepotan dosa pasti memperoleh siksa kubur. Kegaduhan itu pasti berasal dari cambuk malaikat penyiksa, dan mereka tampak bosan dan berharap sedikit keajaiban yang lain. Keajaiban itu ia datang dalam bentuk yang paling fantastis. Kuburan tua itu bergoyang retak dan tanahnya berhamburan bagaikan ditiup dari bawah, menimbulkan badai dan gempa kecil dengan rumput dan nisan melayang, dan di balik hujan tanah yang bagaikan tirai itu, sosok si perempuan tua berdiri dan dengan sikap jengkel yang kikuk. Masih terbungkus kain kafan, seolah ia dan kain kafannya dikubur semalam saja. Orang-orang histeris dengan teriakan serempak yang menggema oleh dinding-dinding bukit di kejauhan. Berlari lebih semerawut dari kawanan domba. Seorang perempuan melemparkan bayinya ke semak-semak, dan seorang ayah menggendong batang pisang. Dua orang lelaki terperosok ke dalam parit, yang lainnya tak sadarkan diri di pinggir jalan, dan yang lainnya lagi berlari 15 km tanpa henti. Menyaksikan itu semua, Dewi Ayu hanya terbatuk-batuk dan terpukau menemukan dirinya di tengah-tengah kuburan. Ia telah melepaskan 2 ikatan teratas kain kafan dan melepaskan 2 ikatan lagi di bagian kaki untuk membebaskannya berjalan. Rambutnya telah tumbuh secara ajaib, sehingga ketika ia mengeluarkannya dari selimut kain mori itu, mereka berkibaran di terpa angin sore, menyapu tanah seperti lumut berwarna hitam mengilau di dalam sungai. Wajahnya putih cemerlang meskipun kulitnya keriput, dengan mata yang begitu hidup dari dalam rongganya, menatap orang-orang yang bergerombol di balik belukar sebelum separuh dari mereka melarikan diri, dan separuh yang lain tak sadarkan diri. Ia mengomel entah pada siapa, bahkan orang-orang telah berbuat jahat menguburnya hidup-hidup. That's the first 2 pages of Cantik itu Luka. As you already heard, I can say that I was influenced a lot by the horror movie of Indonesian horror movie, especially some movie about the ghost who come from her grave and woman, ghost woman, like Susana and the kind of it. So like the Lelaki Harimau, I think from the first 2 pages you cannot figure out what really is the novel about. But as a writer, sometimes it's hard for me to tell the synopsis or the snippet of the novel, because I think where if I can tell you a story in 5 minutes, for example, why I have to write 500 pages, so it's not easy to me to make the novel in a shorter way. So maybe Sabine can introduce you to the novel, the idea of the novel.
Yeah, but you are completely right, Eka. To draft a synopsis of your novel is rather hard to work. It's not as easy, and maybe it is. Yeah, maybe starting from the gruesome opening of the novel, you, Eka, take us right away on a turbulent journey through the fictional town of Halimunda, and you introduce us to the main character, Dewi Ayu. Once the most beautiful and famous prostitute in the city. Dewi Ayu has 4 daughters, 3 of which are considered extraordinary beautiful, and whereas the 4th daughter is described as incredible ugly. And Dewi Ayu gives birth to her 4th daughter shortly before her death, and even without seeing her, she gives her the name Schönheit or Cantik in Indonesian, or beauty in English. And alongside the story of Dewi Ayu's life and that of her 4 daughters, we as the readers travel through Indonesia's recent past, which is to a large extent shaped by violence, aggression and oppression. It is a journey through time from Japanese occupation during World War II, the struggle for independence after centuries of Dutch colonial power, the struggle for over the mass murders of communists in 1965 and 66, up to the time shortly before the overthrow of President Suharto in 98. And Dewi Ayu and her daughters, to make it short and rough, Dewi Ayu and her daughters, and as well as other main characters and the people of Halimunda, are beset by incest, rape, murder, intrigue, insanity, and they are haunted by ghosts. That might sound a little disturbing, and it is disturbing also when you read the book, but be sure that Eka contrasts all the stories of murder and sexual violence with elements of satire, comedy, folk tales, and a huge portion of humor. I have to admit that I had great fun reading the book. And yeah, it was disturbing and it was great fun at the same time, which I thought was a great deal you did, Eka. And I straight away ask you, the novel was published in 2002, even before Tigermann. Maybe some of you haven't recognized that Cantik itu Luka was published before Tigermann, and most people read Tigermann before reading Schönheit ist eine Wunde in Germany. And so you were in your 20s when you wrote the book. And what drove you to write? You said you were inspired by ghost stories and a lot of other stories, but what actually was the inspiration for writing this book?
Yes, I was exactly, I was 25 back when I first write the first draft. This is my first novel, so I have no experience how to write novel, and I have no idea how to become a novelist. But of course, I read a lot of novels, and my first idea is, yeah, I just want to write a novel, and because when I was more younger. I used to read a lot of horror novels, watching horror movies, and read martial art novel. Sometimes in my head, I just want my goal is a little simple. I just want to write horror novels. That's it, because I like the genre very much. But when I started to write the novel, I think the genre is a little bit out of date. I don't think people still read the horror novel, so I just want to combine it with another thing. So the second idea is came from, of course, Pramudia Atur, because when I studied philosophy in Gajah Mada University, I wrote my advanced essay about Pramudia, and that became my first books actually. I read Bumi Manusia, and I just think that because the book tetralogy of Indonesian get the independence. So, excuse me, you still heard my voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Back again.
Yeah, I think after I read Bumi Manusia by Prama, I just ask myself, what after the Mink episode, because Indonesian not yet got the independence, because the Japanese not yet came to Indonesia. So I just want to start from that moment when Indonesia just a few years before the independence day, when the Japanese came to Indonesia in 42, and then go on until the modern, until the recent time when I wrote the novel. So there is basically the idea about the historical novel, but it's not really what I want. I just want the historical is there, but not the kind of historical novel like Pramudia. So I just want to make it to mix a lot of genre, the horror novel, the historical novel, because in 2000 I think I started the novel. It's just 2 years after Suharto stepped down. I think all of us remember about that. There is a lot of political questions I asked myself. One of them is why Indonesia as a country become like that, become the one general like Suharto can be there for almost 32 years in power. So I just have to relearn again about what actually happened in Indonesia. But at that time, as a young writer, I don't know how to write those stuffs about the history, about the anything about Indonesia already happened in Indonesia. So I started to learn from other writers in other places. So at that time, I started to read for example, 100 Years of Solitude, Garcia Marquez, because because people said, and approve it when I read the novel. It's about the not only about the Colombia where the novel setting, but people said that it's about the continent, the Latin America story, the history of Latin America in one single book. But the idea, but I know I don't want to just copy the idea of what Garcia Marquez already read. So I start to looking for another novel that have the same challenge to write a nation's history. So and then I read, for example, Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie, because this book is a story about India from the moment they get the independence and then to the modern era, where a lot of children were burned in the night when India got independence. I think I got a lot of influence from this novel, from Salman Rushdie's novel, because it's actually a story about India. So I just try to move the idea to Indonesia. Is the story about Indonesia from the early stage of the republic and then to the recent moments. But because the novels, there is a lot of tragedy, and so I want to and a lot of violence, because when you read the Indonesian history, there is a lot of violence from the very early days in the revolutions days. People kill each other. So I want to soften the violence with the satirical story. So this time I learned a lot from one particular novel. I think all the here the readers from Germany know about this novel. This is the Tin Drum by Günter Grass, because I forget which years the Günter Grass received the Nobel Prize, but that years I think he is very famous. So I got the novel, so I read it, and I think it's kind of very interesting how the history of Germany retold by a small person's Oscar that it's like a Peter Pan and never grow up. So I just actually the idea about a person, a character who never grow up, so he can span all of the Germany history. So I just copy, but I don't told about the same character, but I replicate it into the ghost, because I think the ghost have the same similar character, because ghosts never grow up. So it's you can spend as long as you can the story, because the ghost always there. So there's I think it's kind of combine the influence from the local motivations, like a horror novel, martial art story, and then influence from other novel from another culture. That's it.
Thank you, Eka. While translating your book, I actually did read some of Kung Fu books and Kung Fu comics in order to, because it's not my genre, or I rarely read Kung Fu books or Kung Fu comics, but I started to read them just to become aware of some of the speed of the story, or some movements and the atmosphere in the books. What about you, Martina? Oh, your voice.
I had been reading Kung Fu books with my students at Hamburg University. We had one semester horror stories and one semester Silat stories. So I had some experience, and I read Koping Ho and Mintarja, also because I'm interested in Javanese history and how Mintarja reworks Javanese history from the Babats. So, and I also found some parallels. It's me. I don't know whether my Indonesian is always limited, so I don't know. But we have this kelebat. That was a word I knew from the Silat stories, that somebody is springing and running or flying. And I found this word also in the parts where there is some beating, or the father of Margio is using violence against his wife, what Margio sees. And so I thought, yes, there's also some speed of the Silat novel in it. That was my impression. I don't know whether Eka sees it like that, like that too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit same that even knows. I think readers nowadays don't read Silat novel again, and maybe older generation still read it as kind of a nostalgic things. But yeah, sometimes I hope the genre is revived again, and some younger writers start to write the genre, because yes, I think I never read this kind of novel in Western culture. Of course, in Western there is like night story, but it's not like it's very different with the martial atau silat novel, or maybe in America we know kind of pulp fiction, but it's more like a crime psychological novel or Western novel like cowboy, but it's just people shot each other, but it's very different with the silat novel. I think the similarity maybe only if you read some wuxia novel from the China or a samurai novel in Japan, but yeah, it's I think it's very very Asian.
Yeah, it's action oriented, and you also get frightened for your what is that, for your for the hero. You feel the hero is in a struggle with another one, and so you you get thrilled by this Silat story. I thought it, and sometimes I thought it is nearly the same. You see Nuraini, and then you you feel how does she work, but he is very strong. She can yes, stand against all of this violence. Mm.
Yeah. And also Devi Ayor, we get to know her as a survivor of unimaginable cruelty, and she somehow possesses an inner strength which she's able to share also with others, and to support others even in the most brutal situations. She's also,
Yeah. In my eyes, there is some similarity between Nyai Ontosoro and Devi Ayo in my reading. So you feel somebody going through a violation and then becoming strong, and so, and that was my impression when reading the book.
I think this kind of story ends in maybe in in Indonesian horror novels and martial art novels, silat story, the motive usually is about the vengeance, about the people. There is injustice in society. If you read a silat novel, so the hero will come to correct the injustice, but in a ghost story, usually someone who already dead and then became ghost, so it take a revenge. So it's the same motive to correct the injustice. I think it's kind of symbolism in because cerita silat or silat stories and horror novels actually very popular in the New Order era. I think it's kind of symbolism about the society, the injustice in society. So how we are very frustration. So we need a hero or a ghost. So I just copy. I just influenced by this kind of motif, both in Lelaki Harimau and Cantik itu Luka, and even in Macet novel too. So the motive is a kind of a revenge because there is in Beauty is a Wound, like already Sabine told, there is a cruelty, not only injustice, but the very cruel. But I think it's did by not only Japanese but Dutch and Indonesians. And actually we can say that all of them is by men to women. So a little bit different from Lelaki Harimau and Cantik itu Luka. In Cantik itu Luka, the influence come from the ghost story. So who the person who took the revenge is a ghost. But in Lelaki Harimau is actually not a ghost, but it's kind of a little hero.
Yeah.
Your books and reading some ghost stories and horror stories from Indonesia actually changed my relationship to ghosts. It's not that I believe or not believe in ghosts, but they become, in your books especially, another protagonist, and as a reader, we take another perspective or get to know another perspective. And this was very interesting for me. And ghosts are a reality in many parts of the world, not only in Indonesia, but also in Germany, I think, for some people. And yeah, and so they offer a new perspective in seeing certain situations and contexts. Yeah, I found this very interesting and enriching.
But actually, I'm still afraid of ghosts, of course.
Yeah.
Which one? Which one most?
No, I think the idea of ghost is something we unknow. For example, we are afraid of the darkness because we know nothing about what actually in the darkness. So, or if we heard a strange noise, so we are afraid because we don't know. I think Dewi Ayu already told we are worried of something because we don't know. when she was in Japanese board for the house.
Did you have a certain character in mind when you draw the protagonist, Dewi Ayu, like a certain model or idol of character?
Actually, maybe not a single character, because because I usually wrote the novels in a strike way. I just wrote the first sentence and then the first paragraph and so on, so without a plan. So sometimes it's kind of mixed when I rewrote the novel, because my first draft usually is very bad. So I just rewrote again, and then the characters became more clear. So sometimes it's kind of mixed. Like I already said that there is a little influence in Dewi Ayu from the character from the Teen Drum, the Oscar. Someone who can live a long time. But at the same time, maybe like already Martina said, that there is an influence from Snei Ontosoro, because I think when I read the Manusia, the character is very stand out. So I just think about the strong woman. But maybe with a little bit different, because I think Dewi Ayu more cynical than the Nyai Ontosoro, who I think she is very wise and clever. I just copy the cleverness, but the cynical, I think, came from maybe I don't remember where it came from. But yes, sometimes all the character is came not from a single influence, single sources, but it came from a lot of sources. Even the names, sometimes I just pick the name from like Adinda is came from the Multatuli, the Maksapelar, but Dewi Ayu, for example, is just my friend's name. So, or Kamerat Kliwon, for example, it came from. I think it's a little bit funny, because I just want to make a name who have first initial, like Mickey Mouse M&M, or Marilyn Monroe M&M. So I just this one has to be has a first name Camerad, and his second name has from the K2, so Camerad Kliwon. So I think it's a little bit influenced by the cartoon, like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck.
But I think it's very nice because it's Japanese with the Kliwon Day. So it is this mixture of left-wing and traditional orientation in the name. Birgit?
Actually, I didn't want to disturb you because of the interesting discussion. There were some questions. I think some were answered during your dialogue. For example, Nikki Inda, if there is a close relationship between Cantik, itu Luka, and Tigermann. I don't know if you want to add something to that question.
Yes. I think when I wrote the Lelaki Harimau, actually it's kind of a response to Cantik itu Luka, because I think I like the idea of self-criticism. I wrote the novel Cantik itu Luka. I used to think that Cantik itu Luka is kind of big novel with a lot of things I combined to one single book. When I wrote the Lelaki Harimau, I want to write something very different. It's a small, compact story about the small town, not about Indonesian history from year one and until present day. So, but at the same time, they share a little bit similarity. In the Lelaki Harimau, the city is unnamed, but you can feel that the city is the same city with in the Cantik itu Luka, the same Halimunda, but I'm not mentioned that. But you can recognize some character who appear in both Cantik itu Luka and Lelaki Harimau. So there is Kiai Jahro, for example, the minor character, but I like him very much because actually I wrote Kiai Jahro based from my father, because he is actually have the fish bone in the opening of Lelaki Harimau. I used to accompany him to give the fish in the ponds or like leaf and anything to feed them. So yes, actually based on my father, the character of Kiai Jahro, because he used to teach young children to recite the Quran, so mengaji, so it's kind it's appear in Cantik Itu Luka and Lelaki Harimau, just a minor character, and there is another minor character too, like Mayor Sadra, because it's another motive why this Mayor Sadra is appear, because I love the idea that in New Order era, that everything is always have a kind of relationship with the military. So and whatever happens, you have to go to a military compound. So I love the idea that even if you hunt the boar, you have to accompany by a soldier. Yeah, actually, is a kind of veteran. Mayor Sada is always like something very important in the kampung. So although he is a kind of minor character, but I love the idea to put him in those two novels.
Okay. Then there was a question from Heidi Holzwart. Can you tell something about the process from having an idea to finding a publisher? I mean, the first publisher. Now, I'm sure every publisher would like to have you.
Yes, when I wrote my first novel, is very hard to find a publisher. Actually, I wrote the novel in 2000. And in 2001, I finished it. So I tried to send the manuscript to maybe 5 publishers, big ones and small ones. But all of them, I can say that in one and other way reject it. The big publisher said it's too literary. The small publisher said it's too thick, so we don't have money to publish it. So in the end, but luckily there is kind of initiative from there is an activist, Pak Mansur Fakih in Yogyakarta, who create the Jogja Academy, a Jogja Cultural Academy, who want to support young writers to have a kind of activities, some like discussion, literary discussion, and then workshop to write novel, and in the end to publish what we already wrote. So the Yogyakarta Cultural Academy is my first publisher. Actually, it's not a really publisher. It's just a kind of like a small NGO to support the writers. So the first editions of Cantik Itu Luka published in Yogyakarta in 2002 by Akademi Kebudayaan Yogyakarta. It's just 2 years later, the novel acquired but by Gramedia Pustaka Utama, the biggest publisher in Indonesia. So until then, I have a kind of no problem to publish anything. So
yeah. Okay, then Leonie Kress, she says, Selamat sore Eka, I love your books. You have a big impact on my studies. Thank you for that. I've written a short essay on Cantik itu Luka, and I was very impressed by the figure of Dewi Ayu. Her character is so strong, and she has a respectable figure in Halimunda, even though she's a sex worker. She's so contrary to the stereotype of the obedient woman. My question is if you had any role models in mind when you wrote Dewi Ayu's character. Actually, you spoke about that already. I think
Yes.
it is answered, right? Then we have Yanti Mirdayanti. She says, I'm very proud to be able to witness such a great writer like you who was born in my hometown, Tasikmalaya. My question for you would be, what is the greatest challenge you have ever been confronted, if any, during the process of writing your novels?
Yeah, I think the greatest challenge, first of all, is of course consistency, because yes, I think when I wrote the two novel, I was very young and unexperienced. Yeah, I even don't know how to write novels because nobody teach me how to write that. So it's kind of very challenging to me. But the good thing is because I almost know nothing, I have no pressure, so I just write them. It's very different. When I wrote my third or my fourth novel, because people already know that I'm a novelist, so sometimes I think people have a kind of expectation to me. So yes, I think when I wrote my first and second novel, I thought I have no experience, but it's easier to me because I have no expectation from anybody.
Eka, did you have first readers, and did their reaction influence you? Or did you just write by yourself and correct it by yourself? Or did you read it to some friends? Or how did you work on the first novels?
Yes, actually, when I wrote Lelaki Harimau and Cantik itu Luka, especially Cantik itu Luka, I used to share with my friends and said because I live in Yogyakarta and have a lot of writers friends, so we share each other. So we read I read their works and they read my work. So sometimes yes, like all of them, sometimes they just give a positive comment, but sometimes it's very fierce that they criticize our work. But I think it's very healthy and it's keep me very yes, it's very positive for me. But after I wrote my second novel, Lelaki Harimau, I wrote it in Jakarta, and I just came to Jakarta in 2003 after Cantik itu Luka published. And yeah, I just live alone, and sometimes I met the friends, but I was too shy to share my works with new friends because my old friends already busy, and yeah, everyone is I think so we are 27 or almost 30. So I think everybody just one of them is already married and have a kid, and so everybody busy. So I just I leave myself alone and write the Lelaki Harimau. So I just read it myself and correct myself. Just I think I only share it maybe just one or two friends, and I don't think even they read it. So I just finish it myself. So after that, usually nowadays I used to finish my work first before share it to anybody, because Yeah, I think it's, the situation is a little bit different.
Eka, we also have a question, or actually two questions, to Sabine and Martina as your translators. And as I know that you are going to speak about translating Eka Kurniawan in the next chapter, I think it's maybe a good question to bridge to that topic. The question is from Eti Teresia to Martina and Sabine. How do you approach translating the magical sides of Eka's works, especially having the German audience in mind? How did you bring this theme closer to people who might be unfamiliar with these themes and might even be unfamiliar with Indonesia?
I think the magical part is not so difficult because it is something interesting for the public, for the readers, and they won't feel annoyed, I guess. So I think it's more difficult if you have a lot of realia. So the tempe, the tempe, and you have things like that. There you have to decide, do you want to have many Indonesian words or not? Or do you want to have it mostly German? That is my tendency. I usually also skip if you have a dialogue. So usually I skip a pa and bu at the end of a sentence or something like that. We have not many dialogues in Lelaki Harimau. That was easier to translate. But I think the magical, in the case of the Lelaki of the motif of the tiger, it is not so difficult, and it can be experienced by the reader, and the reader can follow, he or she can follow the text.
Yeah. I wondered if the casual tone Eka uses when describing certain scenes can be transferred into the German. For example, if in the case of magical realism or a part where a ghost appears and Eka uses a rather casual tone, and so as if for Indonesian readers it would be more common to read about ghosts, and that ghosts are part of a social reality. And whereas in Germany, I think it is a little different from that. And I wanted to transport somehow the casual tone, that even in Germany, or maybe for readers who don't believe in ghosts, or for whom ghosts are something, you know, something very strange and not familiar, and something to not believe in, I wanted to transport it as if it was part of their social reality too. So that was, I think, always on my mind to to transfer this part. And also the research was different. For another translation, I did a lot of research on Indonesian recent history, especially the year 65 and 66, around the massacres on communists or left-wing people. But here the research was extended to the, as you mentioned before, to other kind of genres like pulp fiction too, and I even read some German pulp fiction, which was great fun too. So that was, sometimes it was challenging. Yeah. And also, as Martina said, to which extent we use Indonesian vocabulary, or what do we translate? For example, in Lelaki Harimau, Martina, you said Rothunde for the wild dogs. You used the German word Rothunde, and I wondered if because the wild dogs also appear in Cantik itu Luka. And I discussed with the editor, and it was a discussion, so are there wild dogs here in Germany? No, they are not. But actually the race is known, the Rothunde in German, or the wild dogs, the Ajak in Indonesian. And finally we decided to use Ajak because they are not familiar here, or the reader, or most of the readers are not familiar with the Ajak, and so we used Ajak in order to put a little
I didn't use the Wildhunde because of the Wildschwein. It was for me it was too near, so I said I use the Rothunde.
But even in Indonesia, there is a lot of reader who are not familiar with Ajak too, because it's not common too. So I don't know. Even my own generation, not all of them recognize what kind of Ajak, because it's not a domestic dog, but at the same time it's not the kind of wolf. I think the reader who was born or grow up in a big city is not familiar with this kind of creature.
Yes, but it's Wikipedia. You find a lemma Wikipedia. So sometimes that is. I just have a look. Can a reader get in touch with Wikipedia and then know something if it's not common? So. But, for instance, with Tempe, yes, now since some years you find also Tempe, it's a bio shop. So in Germany, so it would be easier. So, Sabine, we had been speaking about violence, and you had been the translator for the violence. Did it distress you to translate so much about violence? So many pages.
This is actually a bridge between the first question we just had now and on violence, because when doing some research or while I was translating Cantik itu Luka, I also read a book on written by an Syrian eyewitness who was imprisoned in a Syrian detention camp. And he talked about the torture he had to endure in this camp, and it just left me paralyzed. I just couldn't. That was very stressful for me and very disturbing, and it left me just paralyzed, and I couldn't think about this kind of torture this man and many other people have to endure in these kind of prisons and detention camps. But it was completely different with Eka's work, Cantik itu Luka, because every scene of violence was embedded in a kind of satire or parody, or it was always spiced with humor. It sounds strange, but with these elements, me as a reader and a translator was able to see the violence, which is real and happens to a lot of people, far too many people, but it helped me to recognize it as structural violence or systematic violence, especially towards women. And enabled me more to see or try to learn who is behind the scenes, who are the actors of this systematic violence, in whose interest are they operating, and things like that, because violence is sad enough part of our reality in many parts of the world. Luckily, I was spared out of this here in Germany, and but many people are not. But it helped to broaden the perspective to see and to learn more about it. I think that was a crucial thing about Eka's book for me, yeah, and to understand more about the fabric of violence and especially done by people in power and the interests behind it. Yeah, so it was not stressful for me reading or translating it and spending so much time with this kind of violence, yeah, during the day and until night, but it made me laugh a lot of times. But then again, I was able to see more and did another research. And also, like I said before, on Syrian politics by that time. Yeah, I don't know if Eka intended to raise this kind of thoughts in the reader's mind, but I understood it that way too.
I think once when I study about Indonesian history and found out that there is a lot of violence, I think almost all of writers have two choice that we hate the violence, and so we just because I think when you are too afraid to write the reality, you have to self-censorship and hide things. But the other choice is you just write them, even if you kind of challenge ourselves. To be honest, I was struggling myself to write all of the violent scenes, but I found kind of solution for me that all this. Well, I believe that if you want how kind of violence the character or the actual fact in the past happened, the reader have to feel it themselves. But at the same time, I want to soften those kind of violence with, like you already said, that by humor and yeah, even the magical situations, I think it kind of soften all this kind of violence, the comedy. I think there is other question. Dear Martina and Sabine, is it easier this day to translate Indonesian novels than in the past when there was no possibility to seek information via Mr. Google or Miss Wikipedia about certain things that are unique for Indonesia and do not exist in Germany or in German culture? Or how do you deal with certain terms that are not quite familiar for you when, for example, you cannot reach the author of the novel for further information about those certain particular terms? Thank you. Yeah, how you deal with it?
I had the luck that I could ask you. I've been lucky. I had been asking some boyish questions on what the boys play or something like that. It was, yes, I don't remember directly what the questions I had, but it was, we had been lucky in this
but I have an experience with my Japanese translator, because she told that anak nakal. I think I wrote anak nakal in Cantik itu Luka is kind of small plant used to plant in front of a house. but she thought that anak nakal is a bad boy, so it's kind of. So no, I don't mean anak nakal is a boy. It's just so I have to give her a picture of the plant. So this is anak nakal. So and then she said, "Oh, I know that kind of plant because this that particular plant is already familiar in Japanese too."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Sabine, anak nakal.
Actually, I was afraid, or in general, I'm afraid not to see or recognize a reference, a sentence or a thing that you mention, and you just consider it as it is there literally, and it isn't. So this is also another great challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had more problems with these short sentences, very short sentences, sometimes how to construct it to put it in a German context. Sometimes I had to do another conjunction or something like that. And with the word dia. It is because sometimes I didn't know dia refers to whom and who had been mentioned beforehand. So once I asked some Indonesians, how do you understand it? So yes, that was a problem. That was a grammar problem, but also, yes, because of the short sentences, very short sentences sometimes. So
there is is
okay, go on.
There is something I was I am very curious about the title, about the Tigermann title. Yeah, because I don't know, I know nothing about how people in Germany think about that. Because when I wrote the title Lelaki Harimau, I actually don't want make it like a superhero, like if I wrote like Manusia Harimau, it will be translated in English like Tigerman, but I don't want that, so I just recreate like Lelaki Harimau because I want to make it different. When the novel published in English, of course I don't want the title became Tigerman because it remind people to like Spider-Man or Batman. So I don't want like that. But I don't know, the German publisher choose or Martina choose to use Tigerman.
I choose it, and I didn't ask you.
Yeah.
Yes,
because
I
don't know
remember.
how the people there think about that.
I just put it like the Indonesian way, just the other way around. If you have kindergarten, taman kanak-kanak, so you just put it the other way around. And then I read, oh, Tiger, oh. Then I had been thinking about whether I should go in the direction of word tiger or something like that. But I didn't want to go to the direction of horror or something like that, and therefore I decided for Tigermann.
Yeah. Because I think in Spanish and Italian they choose the same words. I think.
Italian it's l'uomo tigra or something like that.
Yeah.
So you had in Italian, you have the nice situation that la tigra, it is feminine, but in German it's masculine. So, but it's, I think it is not decisive. Also, Makmua says you can, there are female and male tigers in the village.
Yeah, even when I discuss with the English editor. So actually, we agree that the tiger is a female. So sometimes in the novel we use the tigers, but in the title we stick to the main tiger, not main.
Yeah.
But I think in German, Tigermann, there is no, it's not directly connected to Batman or Superman because it's Tigermann. So yeah, it's another, I hear it differently.
Yeah. And there is one book, something with Tigermann in the title. I didn't check it before. That is a man who worked in a circus and who had been a dompteur, working with tigers for the circus. And so, yes, but that was, we had already our printed version. Yes, and that could be with an article. We have it without article. So,
Martina, I think there is another question from Sigit Susanto. How do you compare between Tigermann and Steppenwolf from Hermann Hesse? I feel there is a similarity, a half wolf and half tiger. Thanks, salam untuk Kang Eka.
I didn't think about it. Yeah, the Steppenwolf is long ago, perhaps not so present in my brain.
I'm lucky now.
So I didn't think about it. Yes, you had been speaking about research. I would have read it if I had time, but because I translated the book in 3 months, I had no time to read many things outside the book and perhaps some ethnological studies about tigers in tiger myths in Southeast Asia or something like that. So I didn't think about it. I had been looking for some wolf film. Werewolf. So that was, but yes. Should be perhaps a next step, a next thing to think about it, or perhaps to write about it. Do you want to hear something about violence?
Yes.
So then it's Sabine's turn.
Yeah, I have a lot to offer from Cantik to Luka. So yeah, if you don't mind, I would allow
I would say we go on because time is running.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So maybe a short part at first. So I would like to read a short part, and this takes place during Japanese occupation. Devi Ayu, as a young woman, is first confined in a detention center for 2 years. And after that time, she and 19 other young women are forced to become so-called comfort women or prostitutes for Japanese soldiers in Mama Kalong's brothel. Mama Kalong's brothel is very famous in Halimunda, and we as readers spend a lot of time there actually. And so a lot of things are going on there. And the first night of their stay of these 20 young women is shaped by unthinkable brutality. The girls are being raped by many soldiers who pay for their pleasure. And Devi Ayu, with her, as we mentioned before, with her unique inner strength, is able to find a way to endure all this and to even support her friends in the brothel, where they spend the next couple of years. And you won't recognize the satire behind, but be sure before and after the scene I'm going to read now, it becomes clear how Devi Ayu deals with that situation and how she makes her friends also cope with that. So for people who maybe get easily triggered by something, you just shut your ears for 4 minutes and then switch back. So yeah, at Mama Kalongs Brother. Nach kurzen und leicht zu gewinnenden Scharmützeln krallten die Soldaten sich ihre Opfer eins nach dem anderen. Als hielten sie ein krankes Kätzchen, hatten sie mit festem Griff jeweils ein Mädchen gepackt, das nun vergeblich versuchte, sich loszureißen. In den folgenden Stunden drangen aus jedem Zimmer die hysterischen Schreie und der Lärm der anhaltenden Kämpfe zu Devi Ayu. Einige Mädchen gelang es, nackt aus dem Zimmer zu fliehen, doch die Soldaten fingen sie wieder ein und warfen sie aufs Bett zurück. Devi Ayu hörte ihre Freundinnen während des grauenvollen Aktes laut und verzweifelt jammern. Und sie hörte Helena, wie diese, während ein Japaner gewaltsam in ihre Scham eindrang, sogar Psalmen herausschrie. Die ganze Zeit über hörte sie außerdem das Lachen der Japaner auf der Veranda, die sich über den Krawall amüsierten. Nur sie selbst gab keinen Laut von sich. Sie bekam einen japanischen Offizier ab, der groß und kräftig gebaut war, wie ein Sumo-Ringer zur Fülligkeit neigte und ein Samurai-Schwert an seiner Hüfte trug. Devi Ayu lag rücklings auf dem Bett, ihren Blick hatte sie zur Zimmerdecke gerichtet. Und weder wandte sie sich dem Mann zu, noch lächelte sie ihn an. Sie schien mehr dem tumultartigen Lärm außerhalb des Zimmers zu lauschen, als darauf zu achten, was innerhalb ihrer 4 Wände vor sich ging. Sie lag da wie eine Leiche kurz vor der Bestattung. Selbst als der japanische Offizier sie anschrie, sie soll ihre Kleider ausziehen, rührte sie sich nicht. Sie schien nicht einmal mehr zu atmen. Maybe Eka, do you want to read the Indonesian version of this part?
Yes, of course. Kemudian tentara-tentara itu mulai mengambil gadis-gadis tersebut satu persatu dalam satu perkelahian yang dengan mudah mereka menangkan. Mereka membawa gadis-gadis itu dalam jepitan tangan bagaikan membawa kucing sakit, dan mereka meronta-ronta penuh kesia-siaan. Malam itu Dewi Ayu mendengar dari kamar-kamar mereka jeritan-jeritan histeris, perkelahian yang masih berlanjut. Beberapa bahkan berhasil meloloskan diri dari kamar dalam keadaan telanjang sebelum tentara-tentara berhasil menangkap dan melemparkannya kembali ke atas tempat tidur. Mereka melolong selama persetubuhan yang mengerikan itu. Dan dia bahkan mendengar Helena meneriakkan beberapa baris mazmur sementara seorang lelaki Jepang membobol kemaluannya. Di beranda, pada saat yang sama ia mendengar orang-orang Jepang tertawa mendengar semua kegaduhan tersebut. Hanya Dewi Ayu yang tak mengeluarkan kegaduhan apapun. Ia memperoleh seorang perwira Jepang tinggi besar, cenderung gempal serupa pegulat sumo, dengan samurai di pinggangnya. Dewi Ayu berbaring di atas tempat tidur menatap langit-langit, tak menoleh apalagi tersenyum. Ia tampaknya lebih banyak mendengarkan suara-suara gaduh di luar kamarnya daripada memperhatikan apa yang ada di dalam kamar itu. Ia berbaring seperti sebongkah mayat yang siap dikubur. Bahkan ketika perwira Jepang itu berteriak agar ia membuka pakaiannya, ia tetap diam saja seolah ia bahkan tak bernapas.
Just a short note, Devi Ayu, even in this situation, finds a way to endure all that, and she is like a dead body, and so that the men and soldiers who rape her lose their pleasure. And she also suggests to her friends to act like that, but her 19 friends are too frightened and too traumatized to even imagine to be able to act like Devi Ayu. And then Devi Ayu suggests, okay, then invite them to play cards. And also again, the friends refuse that because nobody of them can play cards. And Devi Ayu suggests to be like Scheherazade, to tell stories to the men. And yeah, so she's always trying to find a way to survive a situation even like that. Actually, we had another part with the focus on systematic violence. What do you think? Shall we read a second part? So this was an example for the violence against women, and but also, as you mentioned before, a huge massacre happened in 65 and 66 in Indonesia, and this is also depicted in the novel Cantik itu Luka. So if you don't mind, we give another example. Eka, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe you can read those part. I think it's not very long. So it's just maybe 1 page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so after this supposedly launched coup by communists in September 65, an unprecedented massacre of members of the Communist Party and alleged communists took place in Indonesia. A mass murder of estimated more than 1 million people was followed by 3 decades of Suharto's New Order rule. And Halimunda, or fictional town in the novel, is not spared from this outburst of this systematic violence. And again here, Eka contrasts the incidents with a personal story and a lot of humor too. And this time it is a story, or even a love story, of Camino, the grave digger, at the local cemetery in Halimunda. And he has the duty of burying the dead bodies of the slaughtered communists. And he just fell in love with Farida. Farida is the daughter of the first ever killed communist in Halimunda, and a devout Muslim called Mualimin. And he was the first one who died, and Farida is guarding his grave for several days. And Camino, the grave digger, falls in love with her. And it's just after the first dead bodies were transported to the graveyard in Halimunda. And Camino also thinks that bad things are going to happen, and that more and more communists will be killed in the next few days and weeks. Am nächsten Tag stellte sich heraus, dass Camino mit seiner Annahme ziemlich richtig gelegen hatte. Am frühen Morgen waren 12 Kommunisten ums Leben gekommen. Dieses Mal gab es keine Ansprachen seitens der Parteiführer, denn die Lage hatte sich weiter zugespitzt. Es gab Gerüchte, nach denen Aidit und die Führer der kommunistischen Partei in der Hauptstadt nun tatsächlich verhaftet und hingerichtet worden waren. Auch Caminos Ahnung schien sich zu bewahrheiten, dass die letzten Tage der kommunistischen Partei angebrochen waren. Die 12 Leichen der Kommunisten waren in einem Lastwagen transportiert und einfach auf dem Friedhof abgeladen worden. Ihre Namen blieben unbekannt. Zunächst hob Camino eine Grube nur für diese 12 Toten aus. Doch das war erst der Anfang. Am Mittag kam der Militärlastwagen zurück und die Soldaten luden weitere 8 Leichen ab. Am Nachmittag bekam Camino nochmals 7 Leichen. Derweil saß Farida am Grab ihres Vaters und am Abend war sie Caminos Gast. Dies setzte sich die folgenden 7 Tage fort. Nachdem der Großteil der Sympathisanten der kommunistischen Partei Hals über Kopf geflohen war, hielten noch etwa 1000 Kommunisten am Ende der Jalan Merdeka die Stellung. Einige hielten Waffen aus dem vergangenen Krieg in Händen, dazu einen kärglichen Rest Munition. Einen Tag und eine Nacht waren sie inzwischen eingekesselt, hungrig und durstig. Aber aufgeben kam für sie nicht in Frage. Sämtliche Geschäfte der Gegend waren zerstört, die Anwohner des Viertels längst geflohen. Schwer bewaffnete Soldaten der regulären Truppen hatten die Kommunisten aus beiden Richtungen der Straße eingekeilt, und der Kommandeur hatte die Demonstranten aufgefordert, sich aufzulösen und ihnen mit durchdringender Stimme mitgeteilt, dass die kommunistische Partei im ganzen Land nach ihrem gescheiterten Putschversuch zerschlagen sei. Doch die mehr als 1000 Kommunisten blieben standhaft. Am Nachmittag feuerten einige von ihnen sogar Schüsse in Richtung der Soldaten ab. Keine der Kugeln traf. Der Kommandeur verlor schließlich seine Geduld und gab den Befehl zu schießen. Vom Kugelhagel aus beiden Richtungen eingeschlossen, stürzten mehr und mehr Genossen auf die Straße. Diejenigen, die noch nicht getötet worden waren, liefen panisch umher, brachten sich gegenseitig zu Fall oder trampelten andere nieder, bevor sie am Ende doch einer nach dem anderen von den Kugeln getötet wurden. Am späten Nachmittag waren 1232 Kommunisten tot. Sie waren in einem kurzen Massaker ums Leben gekommen, das der Geschichte der kommunistischen Partei dieser Stadt und des ganzen Landes ein Ende setzte. So that was the German version of the scene taking place on the graveyard.
So like I think I will read the Indonesian versions, not very long. I think it's just one page two. Keesokan harinya, dugaan Camino meleset meskipun tak terlalu jauh. Pagi-pagi sekali 12 orang komunis mati. Kali ini tak ada pidato-pidato para pemimpin partai sebab keadaan semakin genting. Ada desas-desus bahwa DN Aidit dan para pemimpin partai komunis di ibu kota telah sungguh-sungguh ditangkap dan dieksekusi. Ramalan Camino yang terakhir mungkin benar. Hari-hari kejatuhan partai komunis telah digariskan. Ke-12 mayat orang-orang komunis tersebut dilemparkan begitu saja ke tempat pemakaman. Tak ada sanak famili dan hanya ada satu pesan dari seorang prajurit yang membawa mayat-mayat itu dengan truk untuk menguburnya dengan satu lubang saja. Nama mereka tak diketahui. Bahkan meskipun ia hanya menggali lubang untuk 12 mayat, kenyataannya hari itu tetap merupakan hari sibuk bagi Camino. Ini disebabkan pada siang hari muncul kembali truk militer dan mereka melemparkan 8 mayat lain. Pada sore hari ia memperoleh 7 mayat. Farida masih menunggu makam ayahnya dan ketika malam ia menjadi tamu Camino, sementara lelaki itu disibukkan oleh mayat-mayat yang berdatangan. Begitulah selama berhari-hari sampai puncaknya di hari ke-7 sejak kamera Kliwon tak memperoleh korannya sebagaimana biasa. Ramalan Farida mungkin benar, sementara sebagian besar simpatisan Partai Komunis telah kocar-kacir melarikan diri oleh desakan tentara dan gerombolan anti-komunis. Sekitar 1.000 orang lebih orang komunis masih bertahan di ujung Jalan Merdeka. Sebagian dari mereka masih memanggul senjata bekas perang masa lalu, dengan amunisi yang sangat terbatas. Mereka telah terkepung selama sehari semalam. Tampak kelaparan namun tak pantang menyerah. Toko-toko di sekitar tempat itu telah hancur. Jika tak pecah jendela mungkin terbakar hebat. Penduduk di sekitar tempat itu telah mengungsi. Para prajurit tentara reguler mengepung mereka dari kedua arah jalan. Dengan senjata lengkap dan amunisi memadai. Komandan mereka telah memerintahkan orang-orang komunis itu untuk membubarkan diri, memberitahukan dengan suara lantang bahwa Partai Komunis telah dihabisi di mana-mana setelah kudeta mereka yang gagal. Tapi 1.000 orang lebih komunis itu tetap bertahan. Menjelang sore, beberapa di antara mereka bahkan mulai melepaskan tembakan pada prajurit-prajurit tersebut. Semua pelurunya melukai tak seorang prajurit pun. Komandan para prajurit itu akhirnya kehilangan kesabaran, menyuruh semua anak buahnya bersiap dalam posisi siap tempur. Dan setelah beberapa saat, ia akhirnya memerintahkan penembakan. Dikepung peluru dari dua arah, orang-orang itu mulai bergelimpangan di jalan. Beberapa yang belum terbunuh berlarian kalang kabut saling menginjak dan saling menjatuhkan. Sebelum peluru membunuh mereka satu persatu. Sore itu, 1.232 orang komunis mati dalam satu pembantaian yang singkat. Mengakhiri sejarah Partai Komunis di kota itu, dan bahkan di negeri ini. Yes.
Thank you, Eka. Yeah. So maybe these are the two examples of a lot of more scenes that in the book. Actually, we also wanted to hear about the examples of magical realism, and
maybe I think now Martina turn to read something from other part of Tigermann.
Yeah. Martina, you might.
I just had been thinking, we had in the beginning, we had been speaking about the similarities or commonalities between Cantik itu Luka and Lelaki Harimau. Mungkin sekarang, excuse me. At the moment, perhaps it is not so directly felt, because magical realism is something also to soften violence, but in another way. Yes, we have Devi Ayu, and resurrecting from her grave is also a magical realism. We had already magical realism, but we have it in the Lelaki Harimau, yes, together with traditional lore of folklore or something like that, and at the individual layer, not at the if Cantik itu Luka is more epic, then Lelaki Harimau is more a chamber play. So in this microcosmos of a family. So I wanted to draw your attention to the Indonesian roots of this magical realism. And then we go back to the end of the first chapter of Lelaki Harimau. Here, Major Sadrach is asking Margio about his deed or his violent act, and Margio answers without any sense of guilt, "It was not me, there was a tiger in me." So we come to our title of this day discussion. In the following chapter, we learn more about the origin of this tiger. The tiger comes to Margio when he sleeps at a rainy night in the local prayer house. But Margio's preoccupation with the tiger goes back further. Margio's parents were the first generation to migrate to town. During Margio's childhood and youth, Margio often visits his grandparents in the village. He loves to be with them. For Margio, the village is another world. His grandfather shows him the places where the fairies and the elves are. In the village lives also Marmua, a female oral storyteller. From her, Margio learns that many of the old men in the village have a friendship or a marriage-like relationship with a tiger or a tigress. This special relationship came down from the ancestors. Nobody knows when it started. These tigers had been the protector and helpers of the village men during difficult situations, jumping out of their breasts, for instance, during the struggle against the Dutch or after independence against local guerrillas. Margio is very curious about that. He is a young boy, but his grandfather is not willing to show him or even to speak about his tiger. So that was just for you to know the situation. So I start now in German. An einem Nachmittag schließlich, bei Margios letztem Besuch vor seinem Tod, hatte Großvater zu ihm mit fester Stimme gesagt: Der Tiger ist weiß wie ein Schwan. Es war wie ein Merkmal. Falls der Tiger zu ihm kommen sollte, so würde er ihn sofort erkennen. Großvater hatte damals gesagt, dass der Tiger, wenn er es möchte, zu Margios Vater gehen wird und dann in dessen Besitz sein wird, sodass Margio bis zum Tod seines Vaters warten müsste, um ihn dann zu erben. Sollte der Tiger aber nicht den Vater wählen, dann würde er zu Margio kommen und Margio würde ihn besitzen. Und wenn er mich nicht mag, hatte Margio ängstlich gefragt, dann wird er zu deinem Sohn oder Enkel kommen. Vielleicht aber wird er überhaupt nicht mehr kommen. falls unsere Familie ihn ganz vergisst. Der Tiger war jetzt also zu ihm gekommen, lag neben ihm auf dem warmen Teppich des Gebetshauses, während die Welt draußen unangenehm kalt war. Wie Großvater gesagt hatte, war er weiß, schwanenweiß, wolkenweiß, watteweiß. Margios Freude war unvorstellbar groß. Sie überstieg die Freude an allem, was er jemals besessen hatte. Er stellte sich vor, wie der Tiger ihn bei der Jagd begleiten würde, wie er ihm helfen würde, die Wildschweine, diese Zerstörer von Nassreis und Trockenfeldern, zu hetzen, und wie der Tiger ihn bei einer kurzen Unaufmerksamkeit vor einem Angriff der Schweine oder anderem Übel schützen würde. Er hätte nie gedacht, dass der Tiger an einem so schrecklich kalten Morgen zu ihm kommen würde, als Zeichen, dass er jetzt sein Besitz war, wie ein Mädchen, das sich ihrem Liebsten überlässt. Sieh an, wie er da liegt, wie er seine Pranken mit seiner biegsamen Zunge leckt, wie diese lang wird und dann wieder im Maul verschwindet. Ein wenig sieht er wie eine Katze aus, aber doch viel imposanter und edler durch seine mächtige Statur. Margio blickte ihm lange ins Gesicht. Er sah so schön aus, und der Junge hatte sich innig verliebt. Er streckte seine Hand nach dessen Hals aus, umarmte ihn und spürte das warme Fell auf seinem Körper. Es war, als umarme er ein Mädchen an einem kalten Morgen. Nackt auf dem Bett, eine selige Innigkeit nach einer langen Nacht des Liebesspiels. Im Taumel seines Glücks nach all den Jahren sehnsuchtsvollen Wartens schloss Margio die Augen und war vom Wahrheitsgehalt der Geschichten, die er als Kind gehört hatte, fest überzeugt. Aber dann spürte er ganz überraschend diesen Verlust. Mir nichts, dir nichts war ihm etwas entrissen. Die Geliebte war ohne Abschiedsworte gegangen. Plötzlich war von der Wärme nichts mehr zu spüren. Margio öffnete die Augen und er sah den Tiger nicht mehr. Eka?
Yeah, thank you. Now, I think I remember the first idea why I have to write those parts earlier time when I was a student in Yogyakarta. One day, I sit in front of my friend's room. Now, there is a chair, so I just sit down in the afternoon. And my friend was inside his room, and then suddenly I heard something or someone fall to the ground inside the room. So I asked it to my friend what it is, and he said, I just fall down because there is a tiger in front of me, so it made me fall. I was very surprised, and I asked him again, what kind of tiger? There is no tiger here. He said, you cannot see the tiger, but there is a tiger here because my uncle sent the tiger to me. Which uncle? My uncle who lived in the village, he said. So, and then actually I don't believe him, but the story is, of course, we share the same story about the mythical tiger in our village because he came from the same hometown with me. He came from Tasikmalaya, and we used to heard about this kind of mythical tiger who. That I already told in Lelaki Harimau. So the idea is survived for a long time until I wrote the novel. So I think those episodes with my friend fall inside the room and told to me that he fall because there is a tiger in front of me. I think it's kind of inspiration for this part of when Margio meet the tiger for the first time. I will read it in Indonesian. Hingga suatu sore pada kunjungan Margio yang penghabisan sebelum kakeknya mati, si kakek berkata kepadanya, memastikan harimau itu putih serupa angsa. Itu semacam pertanda seandainya harimau itu datang kepadanya, sehingga ia bisa segera mengenalinya. Kakeknya berkata, jika harimau itu suka, ia akan datang pada ayahnya. Dan ia akan jadi miliknya, hingga Margio mesti menunggu sampai si ayah mati dan mewariskan itu kepadanya. Namun jika harimau itu tak suka pada ayahnya, ia akan datang kepada Margio suatu hari, dan Margio akan memilikinya. Dan jika ia tak menyukaiku, tanya Margio cemas. Ia akan datang pada anakmu atau cucumu, atau barangkali tak akan pernah datang lagi jika keluarga ini melupakannya. Harimau itu kini datang kepadanya, berbaring di sampingnya di atas karpet surau yang hangat sementara alam semesta begitu dingin di luar. Sebagaimana kata kakeknya, ia berwarna putih serupa angsa, serupa awan, serupa kapas. Tak terbayang betapa senang hatinya melebihi apapun yang pernah dimilikinya. Ia membayangkan bagaimana harimau ini akan menemani hari-hari perburuan mereka, membantunya menggiring babi-babi perusak sawah dan ladang. Dan dikala lengah sementara seekor atau dua babi menyerangnya, ia akan melindunginya dari segala yang terburuk. Tak pernah terpikirkan olehnya ia akan datang di pagi yang dingin keparat ini sebagai pertanda bahwa itu miliknya, seperti seorang gadis yang berserah pada kekasihnya. Lihatlah bagaimana harimau itu berbaring, masih menjilati ujung kakinya dengan lidah yang panjang terjulur keluar masuk. Sejenak ia serasa kucing, namun tampak ningrat dan agung oleh kebesaran tubuhnya. Margio memandang dalam pada wajahnya. Ia tampak begitu cantik dan bocah itu jatuh cinta tak kira-kira. Ia merengkuhkan tangan ke lehernya, memeluknya, dan merasakan bulunya hangat ke tubuhnya, serupa pelukan pada seorang gadis di pagi yang dingin dan telanjang di tempat tidur, kemesraan yang paling intim selepas percintaan sepanjang malam. Margio memejamkan matanya dalam puncak kebahagiaan atas penantian panjang penuh kerinduan. Telah meyakinkan dirinya atas semua kebenaran dongeng yang didengarnya semasa kecil. Namun tiba-tiba ia merasakan rasa kehilangan itu, sesuatu yang dicerabut serta-merta. Gadis kekasih yang pergi tanpa pamit ketika tak lagi terasa kehangatan itu. Margio membuka matanya dan tak lagi melihat harimau itu di sana.
Margio feels very much abandoned and he becomes very angry. And that is the beginning, though the tiger didn't leave Margio for the whole time, but in the end, Margio feels that the tiger is in him. So, but first, yes, he was very disappointed and angry. So the tiger has something to do with anger. And so you told us already about the concrete story. Is there also some link to Abdullah Harahap and his Manusia
Manusia Harimau.
Or...
No, Manusia Harimau actually is not written by Abdullah Harahap. It's written by S.P. Chandra. He is Abdullah Harahap mentor actually.
So I just had been wondering. So for me, yes, I see the tiger more in the psychological field, and I guess you keep it open for everybody to interpret the story as people like it. But what I would like to know, did you as a boy also know somebody like Mac Moore, a storyteller in the village? Was that?
Yes, actually it's her actual name. She is the relatives of my grandmother. So she used to come to our house and sit in front of our house with children around her, and she told us a lot of magical story. Sometimes I think I agree that you can interpret that Lelaki Harimau is kind of more psychological rather than some magical. Because I think if you read Cantik itu Luka, the magical is was there in front of a lot of people, but in Lelaki Harimau, the tiger is came only for Mergio, so it's like what happened with my friends. The tiger is only saw by him, not by me. So it's the same case. The tiger is saw by Margo. So maybe it's a real tiger, or it is only the Margio's illusion. So for me, it's open for readers to interpret what really happened.
But Eka, Margio's sister also sees the tiger, right?
Yeah, he is. I think because two of them heard the story about tiger from their father, so I think the story becomes become a reality for them. Yes. But like I already said, I opened the story for readers to interpret. It's a little bit different with the Cantik itu Luka, because in Cantik itu Luka, the narrator already said that this is very fantastic. I think in the first page, the narrator already told that the scene Dewi Ayu came from the grave is it's very fantastic. The narrator said it's. We can say that it's actually happened there, not only illusion of the boy who the first witness of Dewi Ayu came from the graves.
Yeah. A lot of people become a witness of this scene. Yeah. I'm afraid we are over the time. I'm afraid. Birgit, what do you?
I am just thinking if we should go on or if we should stop here, because we or you have been talking for more than 2 hours now. Almost all of our spectators are still here, so I think everybody is still concentrated, and maybe we can have some. How do you feel? I mean, it's your decision mainly. And maybe we can have 2-3 comments from our audience. Should we stop here, or there's actually one more topic you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. If there are any questions by the audience?
Not so far. No, there were no more questions so far.
Maybe Birgit, can we ask directly to Eka maybe?
Of course, you
because
can.
My hands are tired writing.
Of course, silakan.
Ya, halo Kang Eka, salam dari Hamburg. Saya dari Tasikmalaya, Kang Eka. My question is, I have read some of your novel. It's kind of exciting, so I can't stop reading it. So I haven't read all of them, but so my first question was like the greatest challenge that you have been confronted, and you answered already, and now is, so how, maybe do you have any suggestion for all of us, like how can you kind of stay very constant, in writing kind of novels that always kind of very exciting, so what is your most do you choose times to write it, or do you write when you have like such great inspirations? Because it seems to me it's kind of everything you wrote very, very interesting, and also you write quite you are quite active basically, so if I would say.
Actually I cannot say that I write a lot. So when I want to write, I just write, and when I feel very tired, not write at all, just read some books. But actually, I try to trick myself when I wrote something, novel or anything. I place myself as a reader too. So I used to write one page, for example, and then I stop and I read what I already wrote as a reader. And if I thought that page is interesting, so I feel like this piece is good enough to go on. But if as a reader I read those pages and I feel it's kind of boring thing, so I try to rewrite or sometimes abandon what I already read at all. So I think it's very important for me to place myself as a reader, so I can self-criticism when I wrote anything.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Birgit.
Among writing, you just published a new book just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
A new piece was published, written by you. Can you tell us a little about it?
Yes, actually, it's I don't know if we can call it a book, because it actually just we can say it a kind of chapbooks. Yes, it's very small books. There's only around 40 pages. 40 pages, so it's very small, and only one short story inside of the book. The title is Sumur, the well. Actually, the short story I wrote last year, maybe 2 years ago, and it published first in English last year. There is one editor want to publish an anthology about the climate change. So I wrote the short story for the publication published by Penguin Books last year. The short story is a little bit long, around 5,000 words. So I don't know how to publish it in Indonesia, because in Indonesia short story usually published in newspaper, but the newspaper is very have a very short space, around 1,000 words. And there is no literary magazine in Indonesia nowadays. So I don't know how to publish this this short story, or too long for a newspaper. Of course, if I want, I can publish it in internet, in blog post, but I don't want to do it, because if I publish it in internet, nobody will pay me. So I spoke to my editor in Gramedia. Do you want to publish a short story, only one short story? If you publish it, maybe only 40 or 50 pages. So it's I don't know. Do you want it? But my editor said, "Of course, we will publish it." So I sent the short story to them, and then yeah, the book published last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it's the maybe not the only one who very small book, but it's one. For me, it's maybe the only one time only in my lifetime to publish those kind of small books. But the response is very good. I took we only publish we'll print it once, so it's only there is only one version. We publish it 5,000 copies, and I heard from the publisher is already sold for 3,000 copies. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, looking forward to reading that too.
Maybe this could be a new project for Sabine or
Yeah,
Martina.
or
Next
cooperation.
one. Yes, and then we could meet again and talk about the latest publishing in 2 languages of Eka's work. Should we take this as an opportunity to finish this event? What do you think? Is there still anything you would like to add, Sabine, Eka, Martina? There are no more questions, only thank yous from our audience.
Beside recommending the books written by Eka Kurniawan, read them all.
Yes, I already placed the links to the websites online where German readers can buy the books. And what is interesting, at a very large online store, global online store, you can also buy the Indonesian versions of both books from Germany. I put the link in the chat. It's a little bit more above. Please copy them and you can order the books in 2 languages. Yes, so thank you very much, Eka, Sabine and Martina, for this very, very interesting and exciting discussion. I learned so much, not only about how you produce your wonderful literature, Eka, but also how much work it is to translate literature. Actually, I was always attracted to try to translate literature, but now I definitely know I have to keep my fingers off literary translation. This is, it's better to leave that to the experts like Sabine and Martina, who really produce some very, very great translations of your books, Eka. Thank you so much again for the talk. Thank you for being our guests, and hopefully eventually you will be part of TemuSastra in the future again.